There was a moment during Commander Yrix's first joint mission with humans when he became genuinely convinced that the entire species was mentally unwell. It happened like this. The mission had gone wrong. Badly wrong. What had started as a routine supply escort through the Cathara corridor had turned into an ambush. 6 ships against 2. Their vessel had taken significant damage. 3 crew members were injured. The situation, by any reasonable military assessment, was extremely serious. Yrix was terrified. He was not ashamed of this. Terror was a rational response to a rational threat. His species, the Drovan, had evolved excellent threat assessment instincts over millions of years. Those instincts were currently screaming at him from every direction. He turned to his human co-commander for tactical consultation. Lieutenant Commander Jake Reeves was bleeding from a cut above his eye. His console had partially exploded when the second hit came in. He had approximately 40 seconds to determine their escape route before the enemy ships repositioned for another attack. Yrix watched him assess the situation, and then watched him do something that no Drovan would ever do in a life-threatening situation. Jake Reeves laughed. Not a small laugh. Not a nervous laugh. A genuine full laugh, shaking his head, as if someone had just told him an excellent joke. Classic, he said to nobody in particular. Absolutely classic. Then he started working the console. Yrix stared at him. You are laughing, he said. Little bit, yeah, Jake said, not looking up. We are about to be destroyed. Probably not, Jake said. But maybe. Either way. He glanced at Yrix with that strange human expression that meant amusement. Worrying about it won't help. Yrix had absolutely no response to this. They survived. Jake's console work found them an escape. Route through a debris field that Yrix would never have considered, because the navigation risk was technically higher than the combat risk. Jake had considered it immediately, after they were safe and the adrenaline had faded, and Yrix had spent approximately 20 minutes sitting very still, processing what had happened. He asked the question, "Why did you laugh?" Jake was wrapping a bandage around his hand. He considered the question seriously, which Yrix appreciated. Honestly, Jake said, because it was kind of funny. 6 against 2, ambush in the one corridor we had to use, console explodes right in my face. He shook his head. If you wrote that in a story, nobody would believe it. It was not funny, Yrix said carefully. It was extremely dangerous. Sure, Jake agreed. But dangerous and funny aren't mutually exclusive. He paused. Actually, the most dangerous things are usually the funniest. In retrospect. Yrix stared at him. In retrospect, he repeated slowly. Yeah, like in the moment it's terrifying. But then you survive and you think about it and... Jake grinned. Console explodes right in my face. Come on, that's a little bit funny. Yrix looked at the scorched console. He genuinely tried to find it funny. He could not. He filed a report to the xenobiological division that evening. His message read simply, I need someone to explain human laughter responses to mortal danger. It is affecting my ability to accurately assess whether my co-commander is experiencing psychological distress or genuine amusement. I cannot tell the difference. The response came back within hours. It was longer than he expected. The xenobiological division's response was titled simply, On Human Humor and Mortality, a brief overview for non-human personnel. It read as follows. Human laughter in dangerous situations is not a sign of psychological distress. It is, in fact, the opposite. It is a coping mechanism that has been documented across every human culture in recorded history. Humans have a word for this. Gallows humor, named after the wooden structure historically used for executions. The term itself tells you everything you need to know. They named a type of humor after one of the worst ways to die. The psychological function of this response is complex, but essentially comes down to this. When humans cannot control a situation, they reframe it. Instead of focusing on the threat, they find the absurdity, the ridiculousness, the specific way in which the universe has conspired to produce this exact terrible situation at this exact terrible time. This reframing serves several purposes. It reduces the neurological impact of fear responses. It maintains cognitive function under stress. It creates social bonding between individuals facing shared danger. Most importantly, it works. Humans who laugh in dangerous situations consistently outperform those who do not in tests of decision-making speed and accuracy under stress. The laughter is not denial. It is not delusion. It is a tool. A species that spent 100,000 years facing predators, disasters, and each other developed the ability to look at death and find it funny, because the alternative was being paralyzed by fear, and paralysis got you killed. Yrix read the report 3 times. Then he looked across the common area at Jake Reeves, who was playing a card game with 2 other human crew members, laughing loudly about something. A species that looked at death and found it funny. He thought about that for a long time. 3 weeks later, they were ambushed again. Different corridor. Different enemy. Same general situation of everything going wrong simultaneously. This time, Yrix watched Jake more carefully. The laugh came exactly as the 3rd hit rocked the ship and half the lights went out. Short, genuine, followed immediately by complete focus. And this time, Yrix understood it. It was not madness. It was not denial. It was a reset. A single moment of, acknowledging the absurdity of the situation before setting it aside and dealing with what needed to be dealt with. A tool. On instinct, surprising himself completely, Yrix made a sound. It was not a laugh. His species did not laugh. But it was something adjacent. A short exhale that acknowledged the situation and released the fear response and let him think clearly. Jake glanced at him. Did you just... I do not know what I did, Yrix said, already working his console. Jake grinned. I think you just laughed. I did not laugh. Sounded like a laugh. It was a tactical exhale. Jake laughed again, louder this time. They got out of that one too. Afterward, sitting in the quiet of the damaged ship, Yrix found himself thinking about something Sarah, Chen, had once said to a council session he had attended early in his career. We chose to be better. He had thought at the time that she meant they had chosen peace over violence, diplomacy over war. He understood now that it was more than that. It meant they had looked at everything they were. The pain tolerance, the endurance, the sleep deprivation, the biological machinery built for violence and survival, and they had laughed at it, found the absurdity in it, and then chosen something different, because that was what they did. They looked at the worst thing in front of them, and they laughed. And then they got to work. What happens when an alien soldier is wounded, behind enemy lines, and the only person who comes for them is a human? Next story coming soon. Subscribe to Human Protect. You are only beginning to understand what humans really are.